Aesop's Fables, the Wolf and the Lamb. One day, a wolf and a lamb happened to come at the same time to drink from a brook that ran down the side of the mountain. The wolf wished very much to eat the lamb, but meeting her as he did, face to face, he thought he must find some excuse for doing so. So he began by trying to pick a quarrel and saying angrily, "How dare you come to my brook and muddy the water so that I cannot drink it?" "What do you mean?" answered the lamb. Very much alarmed, said gently, "I do not see how it can be that I have spoiled the water. You stand higher up the stream and the water runs from you to me, not from me to you." "Be that as it may," said the wolf with a snarl, "you are a rascal all the same, for I have heard that last year you said bad things of me behind my back." "Dear Mr. Wolf," cried the poor lamb, "that could not be, for a year ago I was not born. I am only 6 months old." Finding it of no use to argue anymore, the wolf began to snarl and show his teeth. Coming closer to the lamb, he said, "You little wretch, if it was not you, it was your father, so it is all the same." And he pounced upon the poor lamb and ate her up. The Fox and the Lion. A little fox was out playing one day when a lion came roaring along. "Dear me," said the fox as he hid behind a tree, "I never saw a lion before. What a terrible creature! His voice makes me tremble." The next time the fox met the lion, he was not so much afraid, but he kept a safe distance and said to himself, "I wish he would not make such a noise." The third time they met, the fox was so frightened at all, he ran up to Lion and said, "What are you roaring about?" And the lion was so taken by surprise that without saying a word he let the fox walk away. It would not be safe for a little fox always to follow the example for this one, but it's often true that what our fear makes seem a lion in the way has no danger in it if we meet it bravely. A dog and his shadow. Dog once had a nice piece of meat for his dinner. Some say that it was stolen, but others that it has been given him by a butcher, which we hope was the case. Dogs like best to eat at home, and he went trotting about with the meat in his mouth, happy as a king. On the dog's way there was a stream with a plank across it. As the water was still clear, he stopped to look at it. What should he see as he gazed into the bright depths but a dog as big as himself, looking up at him, and lo, the dog had meat in his mouth. "I'll try to get that," said he. "Then with both mine and his, what a feast I should have." As quick as thought he snapped at the meat, but in doing so he had to open his mouth, and his own piece fell to the bottom of the stream. Then he saw that the other dog has lost his piece too. He went sadly home, and trying to grasp a shadow, he lost his substance. The crab and his mother. "My child," said Crab to her son, "why do you walk so awkwardly? If you wish to make a good appearance, you should go straight forward, and not one side as you do constantly." "I do wish to make a good appearance, Mama," said the young crab, "and if you will show me how, I will try to walk straight forward." "Why, this is way of course," said the mother, as she started off to the right. "Not this way," said she, as she made another attempt to the left. The little crab smiled. "When you learn to do it yourself, you can teach me," he said, and went back to his play. Fox and the grapes. It was a sultry day, and the fox was almost famishing with hunger and thirst. He was just saying to himself that anything would be acceptable to him, when, looking up, he spied some great cluster of ripe, black grapes hanging from a trestled vine. "What a luck!" he said. "If only they weren't so high, I should be sure to find a feast. I wonder if I can get them. I can think of nothing that would so refresh me. Jumping into the air is not the easiest thing in the world for a fox to do, but he gave a great spring and nearly touched the lowest cluster. "I'll do better next time," he said. He tried again and again, but did not succeed so well as at first. Finding that he was losing his strength and that he had little chance of getting the grapes, he walked slowly off, grumbling as he did so. "The grapes are sour and not all fit for my eating. I'll leave them for greedy birds. They'll eat anything." The Wolf and the Crane. One day, Wolf, who was eating his dinner much too fast, swallowed a bone, which stuck in his throat and pained him very much. He tried to get it out but could not. Just then he saw a crane passing by. "Dear friend," said he to the crane, "there's a bone sticking in my throat. You have a good long neck. Can you reach down and pull it out?" "I will pay you well for it." "I'll try," said the crane. Then he put his head into Wolf's mouth between his sharp teeth and reaching down pulled out the bone. "There," said the Wolf, "I'm glad it is out. I must be more careful another time." "I will go now, if you will pay me," said the crane. "Pay you indeed," cried the Wolf. "Be thankful that I did not bite your head off when it was in my mouth. You ought to be content with that." Gently, kindly folk, sometimes you have to learn. Kindness must be mixed with caution. The Ants and the Grasshopper. The ants and the grasshopper lived together in a great field. The ants were busy all the time gathering a store of grain to lay by the winter use. They gave themselves so little pleasure that their merry neighbors, the grasshoppers, began at last to scarcely any notice to them. When the frost came, it put an end of the work of the ants and the chirping and merrymaking of the grasshoppers. But one fine winter's day, when the ants were employed in spreading the grain in the sun to dry, a grasshopper, who was nearly perishing with hunger, chanced to pass by. "Good day to you, kind neighbor," she said. "Will you not lend me little food? I will certainly pay you before this time next year." "How does it happen that you have no food of your own?" asked an old ant. "There was an abundance in the field where we lived side by side all summer, and your people seemed to be active enough. What were you doing, pray?" "Oh," said the grasshopper, "forgetting his hunger, I sang all day long, and all night too." "Well then," interrupted the ant, "I must not deprive my own family for you. If grasshoppers find it so gay to sing away the summer, they must starve in winter." And she went on with her work, all while singing the old song, "We ants never borrow, we ants never lend." The Frogs Who Asked for a King. There were once some frogs who lived together in a perfect security in a beautiful lake. They were a large company and very comfortable, but they came to thinking that they might be still happier if they had a king to rule over them. So they sent to Jupiter, their god, to ask him to give them a king. Jupiter laughed at their folly, for he knew that they were better off as they were, but he said to them, "Well, there is a king for you." And into the water he threw a big log. It fell with such a splash that the frogs were terrified and hid themselves in the deep mud under the water. By and by, one braver than the rest peeped out to look at the king and saw a log as it lay quietly on top of the water. Soon after another, they all came out of their hiding place and ventured to look at their great king. As the log did not move, they swam round it, keeping a safe distance away, and at last one by one hopped on it. "This is not a king," said a wise old frog. "It's nothing but a stupid log. If we had a king, Jupiter would pay more attention to us." Again they sent to Jupiter and begged him to give them a king who could rule over them. Jupiter did not like to be disturbed again by silly frogs, and this time he sent them a stork, saying, "You will have someone to rule over you now." As they saw the stork solemnly walking down the lake, they were delighted. "Ah," they said, "see how grand he looks, how he strides along, how he throws back his head. This is a king indeed. He shall rule over us." They went joyfully to meet him. As their new king came near, he paused, stretched out his long neck, picked up the head frog, and swallowed him at one mouthful, and then the next one, and the next. "What is this?" cried the frogs, and they began to draw back in terror. But the stork, with his long legs, easily followed them to the water and kept on eating them as fast as he could. "Oh, if we had only been," said the oldest frog. He was going to add content, but was eaten up before even couldn't finish the sentence. The remaining frogs cried to Jupiter to help them, but he would not listen, and the stork king ate them for breakfast, dinner, and supper every day, till in short time there was not a frog left in the lake. Poor foolish frogs, not to have known when they were well off. The donkey in the lion's skin. A donkey once put on a lion's skin which some hunters had spread out to dry. It did not fit the donkey very well, but he found it. It could frighten all the timid, foolish little animals, so he amused himself by chasing them about. By and by he met a fox. He tried to frighten him by roaring. "My dear donkey," said the wise fox, "you're braying and not roaring. I might perhaps have been frightened by your looks if you had not tried to roar, but I know your voice too well to mistake you for a lion." The mice in the council. Some little mice who lived in the walls of a house met together one night to talk of a wicked cat and to consider what could be done to get rid of her. The head mice were Brown Bag, Grey Ear, and White Whiskers. "There is no comfort in this house," said the Brown Bag. "If I but step into a pantry to pick up a few crumbs, down comes the cat and I have hardly time to run to my nest again." "What can we do?" asked Grey Ear. "Shall we all run at her at once and bite her and frighten her away?" "No," said White Whisker. "She is so bold we could not frighten her. I have thought of something better than that. Let us hang a ball around her neck, then if she moves, the bell rings and we shall hear it and have time to run away." Oh yes, cried all the mice. "This is capital idea. We will bell the cat. Hurrah, hurrah, no more fear of the cat." And they danced in glee. When the glee had subdued, the little Brown Bag asked, "But who will hang the bell around her neck?" No one answered. "Will you?" he asked of White Whiskers. "I don't think I can," replied White Whiskers. "I am lame, you know. It needs someone who can move quickly." "Will you?" Grey Ear said Brown Bag. "Excuse me," answered Grey Ear. "I have not been well since the time when I was almost caught in a trap." "Who will bell the cat then?" said Brown Bag. "If it is to be done, someone must do it." Not a sound was heard, and one by one little mice stole away to their holes, no better off than they were before. When there is trouble, there is need of someone to act, as well as someone to advise. The Kid and the Wolf. A kid come home alone. One night I met a big wolf. Oh, I know you will kill me," said the little kid. "But please play me a tune so that I may have one more dance before I die. I'm so fond of dancing." "Very well," said the wolf. "I will try, for I should like to see you dance before I eat you." Then the wolf took up the shepherd's pipe that was laying near and began to play. But while he was playing, the kid was dancing a jig. The dog heard the sound and then came running up. "It is my fault," said the wolf as the dogs caught him. "My business is to kill kids and eat them, and not to play for them to dance. Was it right to be a piper when when I am really only a butcher?" "You didn't play very well either," said the kid. The Hawk and the Nightingale. A nightingale sitting on the top of an oak, singing her evening song, was spied by a hungry hawk, who swooped down and seized her. The frightened nightingale prayed the hawk to let her go. "If you're hungry," said she, "why not catch some large birds? I'm not big enough for even a luncheon." "Do you happen to see many large birds flying about?" said the hawk. You're the only bird I have seen today, and I should be foolish indeed to let you go for sake of larger birds that are not in sight. A morsel is better than nothing. The Crow and the Pitcher. A thirsty crow once spied the pitcher and flew to see if by chance there was any water in it. When she looked in it, she saw there was water, but it was so far from the top that she could not reach it. Though she stretched her neck as far as she could, she stopped and thought to herself, "How shall I get that water? I'm perishing with thirst, and there must be a way for me to get some of it." Some pebbles were lying on the ground, and picking them up in her beak, she dropped them one by one into the pitcher. They sank to the bottom, and at last the water was pushed up to the top, so the crow could easily drink it. "When there's will, there's a way," said the crow. The Ant and the Dove. An ant walking by the river one day said to himself, "How nice to cool this water looks. I must drink some of it." But as he began to drink, his foot slipped in and he fell in. "Oh, someday please help me or I shall drown," cried he. A dove sitting in a tree that overhung the river heard him and threw him a leaf. "Climb up on the leaf," said she, "and you will float ashore." The ant climbed up on the leaf, which the wind blew to the shore, and he stepped onto dry land. "Goodbye, kind dove," said he as he ran home. "You have saved my life, and I wish I could do something for you." "Goodbye," said Dove. "Be careful not to fall in again." A few days after this, when the dove was busy building her nest, and then saw a man just raising his gun to shoot her, he ran quickly and bit the man's leg so hard that he cried, "Oh, oh," and dropped his gun. This startled the dove, and she flew away. The man picked up the gun and walked on. When he was gone, the dove came back to her nest. "Thank you, little friend," she said. "You have saved my life." And the little ant was overjoyed to think he had been able to do this for the dove, what dove was done for him. The Ox and the Frog. An ox, drinking at the pool, chanced to set his foot on a young frog and crushed him to death. His brothers and sisters who were playing near ran at once to tell their mother what happened. "Oh, mother," they cried, "every huge beast with 4 great feet came to the pool and crushed our brother to death in an instant with his hard-clawed heel." The old frog was very vain. She was rather large, as the frogs go, and gave herself airs on account of it. "Was the cruel beast so very large?" she said. "How big?" "Oh," said the young frog, "it was a terrible monster." "Was it as big as this?" she said, blowing and puffing herself out. "Oh, much bigger," replied the young frog. "As big as this, then?" she added, puffing and blowing with all her might. "A great deal bigger," they answered. "Well, was it so big?" "Oh, mother," cried the fox, "pray do not try to be so big. If you were puff till you burst, you could not make yourself half so big as the creature we tell you of." But the silly old frog would not give up. She tried again to puff herself out, saying, "As big as," and she did indeed burst. It is useless to attempt what is impossible. The Bat and a Weasel. A bat trying to fly one day fell on the ground and a weasel caught him. The bat begged the weasel not to kill him. "There's nothing I hate like a bird," said the weasel. "I will always kill them." "But I'm not a bird," said the bat, as he folded his wings close to his sides. "Birds don't come tumbling down as I did. And besides, don't you see my little smooth head and my ears?" Yes, said the weasel. "I did not notice that them at first. I see you're a mouse." So he let the bat go. Sometime after, the bat took another flight and again fell on the ground. Another weasel came out. The weasel caught him. "Pray don't kill me," said the bat. "Certainly I shall," said the weasel. "I'll kill mice whenever I find them." "But stop a moment," said the bat, spreading his wings. "I'm not a mouse. Don't you see my great wings? A mouse can't fly, can it?" "I beg your pardon," said the weasel. "I did not know you were a bird. I thought you were a mouse. I see I was mistaken." Then he let him go. So the cunning bat escaped a second time. But it is not often safe to use such arguments. The Fox and the Goat. A fox once happened to fall into a deep well. He tried in every way to get out, but at last began to think that it was impossible and that he must die there, a prisoner. While he was thinking how sad that would be, a thirsty goat came and looked down into the well. Wishing that he could get some water, he soon saw the fox. "Hello," said the goat. "What are you doing down there? Is the water good?" "The best I ever tasted," answered the fox. "It is cool and clear and delicious. Come down and try it yourself." "I will," said the goat, "for I am nearly dead with thirst." So he jumped down and drank as much water as he wanted. "Oh, how refreshing!" he cried. "Yes," said the fox, "and now if you have finished drinking, let me ask how you expect to get out of this well again." "Oh, I don't know," replied the goat. "How do you expect to get out?" "That is what I have been wondering about for the last hour," said the fox. "And have you just now thought of a good plan? If you will put your 4 feet high up on the well, I will climb up on the back, so get out, and then of course can help you out." "Very well," said the goat, who was a simple creature. "That is a good plan. How I wish I had your brains." He put his 4 feet on the wall, and the fox easily climbed out and started to go on its way. "Wait a minute," called the goat. "You forgot to help me out." "You foolish fellow," said the fox with a mocking laugh. "You ought to have thought how you would get out before you jumped down. I fell in, but you went down of your own accord. Look before you leap next time." And off he ran. The Woman and her Hen. A woman had a hen that laid an egg every day. The eggs were large and sold for a good price. The woman often thought she took them to market. "How glad they all are to get my eggs. I could sell as many more just as easily." It began to look a small thing to her to get but a single egg each day. If I were give a double allowance of barley, the hen might be able to lay 2 eggs a day instead of 1, she said. So she doubled the food, and the hen grew very fat and sleek, but she stopped laying eggs. The Dog in the Manger. A sleepy dog went to the barn and jumped into a manger full of hay, curling himself up there for an afternoon nap. When he had been sleeping comfortably for some time, the ox came in for their supper. The dog awoke in a great rage of being disturbed and began to growl and bark at them. He would not let them get at the hay. "Stop a moment," said an ox. "Do you want to eat this hay?" "No," said the dog. "I shouldn't think of such thing." "Very well then," said an ox. "We do want to eat it, so we are hungry and tired." "Oh, go away," growled the dog, "and let me sleep." "What an ugly snappish fellow," said the ox. "He will neither eat hay himself nor let us eat it." The mouse, the frog, and the hawk. A mouse who had always lived on the land and a frog who passed most of his time in the water became friends. The mouse showed the frog his nest and everything he could think of what was pleasant to see, and the frog invited the mouse to go home with him and see all the beautiful things that are under the water. "Can you swim?" asked the frog. "Not much," said the mouse. "No matter," said the frog. "I will tie your foot to my foot with a piece of the strong grass, and I can pull you along nicely." The frog laughed as he said he thought it would be a good fun for him, but he well knew that the mouse would not enjoy it. When the frog had tied the mouse foot into his own, they started together across the meadow. They soon came to an edge of the water, and the frog jumped in, pulling the mouse in with him. "Oh, how cool and nice the water is after the dry, hot land," said the frog, and he swam gaily about. But the poor mouse was frightened. "Please let me go," said he, "or I shall die." "Oh, never mind," said the unkind frog, "you will get used to the water, I just love it." But soon the poor mouse was drowned, and they floated up on top of the water, while the frog frisked about down below. Just then the hawk saw a mouse and pounced on it. As he flew away with the frog was dragged out of the water too, for he was still tied to the mouse. "Stop, stop," cried the frog, "let me go. It is the mouse you want." "Come along," said the hawk. "I want you both. I will eat you first, for I like frog meat even better than I do mouse." In a few moments the hawk had made a good supper, and then was nothing left for either the false frog or a foolish mouse. The Shepherd's Boy and the Wolf. A man who had a fine flock of sheep put them all into a field, and hired a boy to take care of them. While he walked near by with his men, the sheep went nibbling the grass all day, up and down the hills, along and brook, and all that the boy had to do was to look out for Wolf and see that he did not come prowling into the field. After a while the boy began to wish that something would happen. It was so tiresome staying all there all alone with no one to speak and to do nothing. He wished he could be with the man in the next field, or they could come and stay with him. All at once he thought him, "I will make them think the wolf has come. That it will be great fun." So he called out loudly, "Help, help, the wolf," and the men came running up. When they found it was only a joke, they laughed and went back to their work. On the next day the boy tried the same trick as before. The men dropped their mattocks and spades for fear there might be danger, and ran to help the boy. He only laughed at them for their pains, and this time they did not relish the joke. Still the boy did not give up again, and he shouted, "Wolf, wolf," till the man took no notice of him. When he called them, no matter how loudly or how long he shouted. After a while the wolf did get in the field. Then in terror the boy called the cow, "Pray, do come and help me. The wolf's killing the sheep, the wolf, the wolf." But no one gave a heed of his cries. Finding only a terrified coward in the care of flock, the wolf left with a few of them uninjured. The fisherman and the little fish. All day long a fisherman had been toiling and had caught nothing. "I will make one more effort," thought he, "and then I must go home." He threw in his last line and soon drew up a very small perch. A little fish was terribly frightened when he found himself out of the water, and with a sharp hook stitching in his mouth, and he said to the fisherman, "Oh, sir, take pity upon me and throw me back into the water again. See what a little thing I am. I should not make one mouthful for you now. But if you leave me in the water, I shall grow large and stout. Then I shall be worth catching. You can make a dinner of me then, or sell me for a good price." "Ah," said the fisherman, "it is true you are small, but I have you safely now. If I should throw you back, I might never catch you again. You're better than nothing. I will keep you." And he put a little fish into the basket and took him home with him. The Fox and the Crow. A crow stole a piece of cheese one day and flew with it up a tree, so as to eat it in her leisure. As she sat there holding in the beak, a fox chanced to pass by and looked up, saw her. "How good the cheese smells," thought he. "I'll have it, sure as I am a fox." Coming closer to the tree, he said, "My dear madame, what a beautiful creature you are. I was not aware till this moment what a rare beauty your family possesses. What eyes, what a glossy feathers, what a grace of a form, is your voice as charming to hear as your person is to look upon. If it is, you well deserve to be called the Queen of Birds. Will you not do me a favor to sing to me?" Now it was well known that the caw of the crow family is not musical. She ought to have been on her guard, but so delighted was she with the flattery of fox that she forgot to be very. She opened her mouth to show the fox the sweetness of her voice. Then down fell a bit of cheese, which was exactly what was expected. The fox ate it on the mouthful and stopped to say, "Thank you, madame, I was quite satisfied. Your voice is well enough, I have no doubt. What a pity it is you are so sadly wanting in wit." The crow learned that to do well, to be on guard when people flatter you. The Partridge and the Fowler. A fowler caught a partridge and was just going to kill it. "Wait a moment," said the partridge, "don't kill me." "Why not?" said the fowler. "Because I like to live," said the partridge. "And besides, if you let me go, I will bring some of my friends and neighbors here, and you can catch them, and that will be better than only one poor bird." "You are willing, then, that your friends and neighbors should die to save your own life?" said the fowler. "Wicked partridge, you have lived long enough." And then he killed it. The thirsty pigeon. Pigeon who was very thirsty saw a goblet of water painted on a sideboard. Without stopping to see what it was, she flew to it with a loud whir, and dashing against the signboard, jarred herself terribly. Having broken her wing, she fell on the ground, and was caught by a man who said, "Your zeal should never outrun your caution." The Three Tradesmen. A great city was once besieged, and all of its inhabitants were gathered together to consider by what means it might be protected from the enemy. A bricklayer earnestly recommended bricks as the best material for successful defense. A carpenter with equal energy proposed timber as preferable means of defense. Hearing which, a courier stood up and said, "Sirs, I differ with you wholly. There is no material for resistance equal to a covering of hides, and nothing in the present case so good as leather. Every man for his own trade." The Hares and the Frogs. In a forest deep shade and still, there once lived a company of hares. Whenever a left leaf fell rustling on the ground, or a squirrel jumping in the branches broke a twig, the hare started and trembled. They were so timid. One day there came a great wind, rushing through the tops of the trees with a roaring noise, and waving branches back and forth. It frightened the hare so much that they all started together, running as fast as they could to get out of the forest, which had been their home. "What a sad state is ours," they said, "never to eat in comfort, to sleep always in fear, to be startled by a shadow, and fly with a beating heart at a rustling of leaves. Better death by fire, let us drown ourselves in yonder lake." But when they came to the lake, it happened there was scores of frogs sporting on the banks, who, when they heard the sound of footsteps, jumped in the water. The timid hares were startled by the splash, but as they saw the frogs dive into the bottom of the lake, a wise hare said, "Stop a moment, let us consider. Here are creatures that are more timid than we. They are afraid of even us, so they are drowning themselves for fear of us. It may not be so bad with us as we thought. Perhaps we have been foolish as the frogs, who alarmed when there is then no danger. Let us make the best of our lot and try to be brave in it." So back they went again into the forest. The Eagle and the Arrow. A most rapacious eagle had his eyes earing on a lofty rock. Sitting there, he could watch the movements of the animals he wished to make his prey, and, waiting his opportunity, seize them and bear them away. The poor creatures had no protection from such a foe, but an archer saw him one day watching from his place of concealment the movement of an unsuspicious hare, and taking aim, he wounded him mortally. The eagle gave one look at the arrow that had entered his heart and saw that his feathers had been furnished by himself when descending to secure prey. "Ah," said the eagle, "it is indeed a double grief that I should perish by an arrow feathered from my own wing." The Eagle and the Fox. One day a mother eagle came flying out of her nest to look for food for her babies. She circled round and round, far up in the air, looking down upon the earth with her keen eyes. By and by saw a little baby fox, whose mother had left in alone while little eagle By and by she saw a little baby fox, whose mother has left it alone while, like the eagle, she went for food. Down came the bird, where went her wings, and away she soared again, with this little fox clutched in her claws. The poor mother fox just at the moment came running home to her child, and saw it being carried away. "Oh, eagle," she cried, "leave me and my little baby. Remember your own children, and how you would feel if one of them should be taken away. I'll bring back my poor cub." But the cruel eagle, thinking that the fox could never reach her in her nest high up in the pine tree, flew away with her little fox and left the poor mother to cry. But the mother fox did not stop cry long. She ran to fire that was burning on the field, caught a blazing stick of wood, and ran with it in her mouth to the pine tree where the eagle had her nest. The eagle saw her coming and knew that the fox would soon have the tree on fire, and now that her young ones would be burned, so, to save her own brood, she begged the fox to stop and brought her back a little one, safe and sound. The drum and the vase of sweet herbs. A drum once boasted to a vase of sweet herbs in this way: "Listen to me, my voice so loud and can be heard far off. I stir the hearts of men, so then that when they hear my bold roaring, they march out bravely to battle." The vase spoke no words, but gave out a fine sweet perfume, which filled the air, and seemed to say, "I cannot speak, and it is not well to be proud, but I am full of good things, and that are hidden within me, and they gladly comfort and give cheers and comfort. People are drawn to me in their need, and they remember me afterwards with a gratitude. But you have nothing in you but noise, and you must be struck to make you give that out. I would not boast so much if I were you." The Two Frogs. Once there were two frogs who were near friends. One lived in a deep pond in the woods, where trees hung over the water, and where no one came to disturb him. The other lived in a small pool. This was not a good place for a frog or anyone else to live in, for a country road passed through the pool, and all the horse wagons had to go that way, so that it was not quite like the pond, and the horses made the water muddy and foul. One day the frog from the pond said to the other, "Do come and live with me. I have plenty of food and water, and nothing to disturb me, and it's so pleasant in my pond. Now that there is very little food and too much water, and the roads pass through your pool, so that you must always be afraid of passers-by." "Thank you," said another frog. "You're very kind, but I'm quite content here. There is water enough. Those who pass never trouble me. And as to food, I had good dinner day before yesterday. I'm used to this place, and do not like changes. But come and see me as often as you can." The next time the frog from the pond came to visit his friend, he could not find him. "Too late," sang the bird, who lived in a tree overhung the pool. "What do you mean?" said the frog. "Dead and gone," said the bird. "Run over by a wagon and killed 2 days ago, and a big hawk came and carried him off. Alas, if he had only taken my advice, he might have been well and happy now," said the frog, as he turned sadly towards home. "But he would have his way, and I have lost my friend." The Lion and the Mouse. It once happened that a hungry lion walked to find a mouse just under his spawn. He caught the tiny creature and was about to make a mouthful of him, and the little fellow looked up and began to beg for his life. In the most piteous tones, the mouse said, "Do not eat me. I mean no harm coming too near you. If you would only spare my life, O lion, I would be sure to repay you." The lion laughed scornfully at this. It amused him so much that he lifted the pawn and let him bravely the prison go free. It befell that the great lion, not long afterward, to be in an evil case as had been in helpless mouse. And it came about that this life was to be saved by keeping of a promise he had ridiculed. He was caught by some hunters who had bound him with a strong rope, but they went away to find means of killing him. Hearing his loud groans, the mouse came promptly to his rescue, and gnawed the ropes till the royal captive could be set himself free. You laughed, this little mouse said, at the idea of me being able to service you. You little thought I should repay you. You little thought I should repay you, but you see, it has come to pass that you are grateful to me as I was once to you. The weak have their place in the world as truly as the strong. The mouse, the cat, and the cock. The young mouse, that had not much of the world, came home one day and said, "Oh, mother, I have had such a fright. I saw a great creature strutting about 2 legs. I wonder what it was." On his head was a red cap. His eyes were fierce and stared at me. And he had a sharp mouth. All at once he stretched his long neck and opened his mouth so wide and roared so loud, and I thought he was going to eat me up. And I ran home as fast as I could. I was worried that I met him, for I had just been seen a lovely animal, greater even than me he, and would have made friends with her. She had soft fur like ours, only it was grey and white. Her eyes were mild and sleepy, and she looked at me very gently, and waved her long tail from side to side. I thought she wished to speak to me, and I would have gone near her, but the dreadful thing began to roar, and I ran away. "My dear child," said the mother, "you did well to run away. The fierce things you speak of would have done you no harm. It was harmless cock, but the soft, pretty thing that was cat, and she would have eaten you up in a minute, for she is the worst enemy you have in the world. Appearances are not always to be trusted." The axe and the tree. Once upon a time, a man came to the forest to ask the tree if they would give him some wood to make a handle of his axe. The tree thought this was very little to ask of them, and he gave him a good piece of hardwood. But as soon as the man had fitted the handle of his axe, he went to work and chopped them all the best trees in the forest. As they fell, groaning and crashing to the ground, they said mournfully one to another, "Our kindness was misplaced. We suffered for our own foolishness." The jackdaw and the sheep. A jackdaw sat chatting upon the back of a sheep. "Peace, I pray you, noisy bird," said the sheep. "You are wearying my life out. If I were a dog, you would not think of serving me so." "That is true," replied the jackdaw. "You are right. I never meddle with the surely and revengeful, but I love to play gentle, helpless creatures like you that cannot do me any harm in return. I wonder if all cowards are like that." The jackdaw muttered the sheep as it went on contentedly browsing on the hillside. The cat and the cock. A hungry cat, who tried in vain to find a mouse for her supper, at last caught a young cock. "You are a noisy creature," she said to him, "and have lived long enough. You disturbed everyone in the house by your loud crowing in the morning." "You are mistaken," answered the cock. I disturb no one. A crow to wake the family. They would not know when to get up, but for me. Never mind, said the cat. Don't trouble yourself to make excuses. I have had no breakfast and no dinner. I shall eat you for your supper. For my supper. A wolf and a goat. A wolf saw a goat feeding on top of the steep precipice where he could not reach her. My dear friend, said the wolf, be careful. I'm afraid you will fall and break your neck. Do come down to the meadow where the grass is fresh and green. Are you very hungry, said the goat, and it's your dinner time? And would you like to eat me? I think I would not go down to the meadow. Thank you. And she capered contentedly about the edge of the road, as safe from falling as she was from greedy wolf in his false care of her. The hen and the swallow. The hen, who had no nest of her own, found some eggs, and in the kindness of her heart thought she would take care of them and keep them warm. But they were eggs of a viper, and by the little snakes began to come out of the shell, a swallow was passing stopped to look at them. What a foolish creature you were to hatch those eggs, said the swallow. Do you know that as soon as the little snakes grow up big enough, they will bite someone, probably you first of all? Then, said the hen, as she stood up on one leg and looked at the ugly little snakes, first with one eye and then with another. You think I have done more harm than good? I certainly do, said the swallow as she flew away. Good judgment is better than thoughtless kindness. Stone broad. One very stormy day, a poor man came to a rich man's house to beg. Away with you, said the servants, do not come here troubling us. Then, said the man, only let me come in and dry my clothes at your fire. This is servants' thought. Would not cost them anything, so they let him come in. The poor man then asked the cook let him have a pan, so that he could make some stone broth. Stone broth, said the cook. I should like to see how you can make broth out of stone. So she gave him the pan. The man filled it with water from the pump and then put in stones from the road. But you must have some salt, said the cook. Do you think so? Courteously replied the stranger. She gave him the salt, and before long she added some peas, some mint, and thyme. At last she brought him all the scraps of meat she could find, so that the poor man made him good dinner. You see, said the man, if you only try long enough and are cheerful, making the best of what you have, you may at last get what you want. The mule and the grasshopper. The mule, hearing some grasshopper chirping, was much pleased with the sound and wished that he could make such sweet music. What sort of food do you eat, said the grasshopper, that your voices are so charming? The grasshopper replied, We live upon dew. The mule then decided that he would live upon dew, and in a short time he died of hunger, just from trying to do what he saw others doing, without first learning the reason for it. The gnat and the bull. A gnat, who had flown about until he was tired, sat down to rest on the horn of a bull. After sitting there a long time, he thought he would go home. So he made a loud buzzing noise and said to the bull, Would you like to have me stay along, or shall I go now? Just as you please, said the bull. I do not know when you come, okay? I'm sure I shall not miss when you go away. What an amount of self-importance for such tiny creature, thought the sleepy bull. A fox and a crab. A hungry fox surprised the crab, who had left the sea and was lying upon the beach. What a good luck to find a breakfast so easily, said the fox as he pounced upon him. Well, said the crab, when he found that he was to be eaten. This comes of going where I have no business. I should have stayed in the water, where I belong. The Donkey and the Frog. Donkey was one day walking through the pond with a load of wood on his back when his foot slipped and fell. Help, help, cried the poor donkey as he struggled and kicked the water, but his load was so heavy that he could not rise, and he groaned aloud. The frog heard his groan, but showed no pity. What a foolish fellow, said he, to make such a fuss about a little fall in the water. What did you say if he had to live here always as we do?